Hi all, I'm Jeanette Keynes from Jewelry Arts Inc. and I'm here to talk to you about half round wire. Half round's a nice shape and a lot of times people like to use it for chain links and like they're nice for ring shanks and whatever. But I think a lot of times people don't really realize that the expression we were using is internally stressed. Is that half round wire, because it has the two shapes in it when you pull it, I mean we pull our own, but you can also just buy it already made. It's not nearly as easy to shape and deal with as like a regular round wire. Like we were saying, like I made this chain right here. I'll let Alexis do a little close up. So it's round links and then it's half round links in between, right? I think it looks pretty nice, if I do say so myself. And I'm making another one, which was what made me think I better do this video, because half round wire kind of takes special handling. Because the round wire, like if you need to make links, we take it, you wrap it around a dowel or a steel rod, you saw it, there's your links, life is good, right? Half round, not so much. Because if you take half round wire and you wrap it around a mandrel and then you saw it, the seams are never right because it like torques. I don't even know if I have the right word to, I'll just do this. It twists and you can never get them straight. So instead of making links in that relatively normal way, what I do is I figure out what I need, which to make the link that I want, this is like, I don't know, I think this is 13 millimeters or something like that. And usually I just fool around with some copper wire when I'm going to make a chain or whatever until I figure out what I need. So instead of just making a normal link the normal way, I figured out what length I need, and then I'm going to use the miter block because that way I can saw them all and all the ends will be beautiful and straight and much easier to get them together. Now I'll also show you what I've been calling the stop, because this makes your life easier when you need to cut a whole bunch of something all the same length. So if you've never used a miter block before, or you've used your miter block and you've never just used these little things, what they do is they give you this cute little, what's this, like an Allen wrench, little hex key. See, like so. Adorable. And it fits, you see this little guy right here? Right in here. And you can take this and you can loosen it up. And they also give you these little pins. So what you can do is you can slide this in here to the length that you need your thing to be and lock it in place. So for example, when I did this, I figured out the length that I needed, and usually I mark 1 on here with my scriber, which is like 13 millimeters, I think. So it's just really handy because when you have to do a bunch of things the same size, it really makes your life a lot easier. Okay, so there's my length. And you notice also the end of my wire is beautiful and flat because it's on the miter block. I mean, that's the whole point of the miter block, is to be able to actually get your ends straight. So when you're cutting tubing or you're cutting, you know, your ring shank or whatever you're cutting, it's really nice to actually get it level. Okay, so you see how I just line right there? Or if you can't see, pretend that you can see that I scribed a little line right there, okay? So now that I've marked this first one to the length that I want, you unscrew these little guys. I'm going to slide it through one of those little holes until I can see the line. And I'm going to tighten it up. Okay, I know this is very hard to see, but the line that I just made is just outside of where it's right there. Okay? Yep. So once I have that, all I have to do, I've already got loose. I can scooch this out to this length. You see what I'm saying? So it hits right up against there. And then I'm going to tighten this. Okay, so now that this is tight, it can't move, it can't scooch around. And that's how I cut all of those to the right length, is that I would take this. And also, you know, just so you know, I do get sometimes people, I got a miter block, but I still can't solve. Now, the whole point of that Alexis is just casually pointing to herself behind the camera. The whole key to that is that you have to remember, whether it's your file or your saw, you have to absolutely rest it against the miter block. Miter blocks are made actually with extra hardened steel, so you won't really hurt them. You might get a few little scratchy marks on it cosmetically, but like that's what they're made for. So if I take my saw blade and I'm going to rest it right against here, you see how my saw blade is 100% resting on the block? You can't just sort of, you know, wiggle around, because then you will get not a straight line, which is...
And you also can't press too hard because the saw blade
will bend.
That's what I do.
Yes, that would be contrary. So you see how I'm going to saw like this, where I'm just like letting it rest right against the block itself. Bing. And then you see it's in there is perfectly flat. This, both ends, perfectly flat. This is how you do it. And then when you go to do the next one, you just loosen the top a little bit, scooch this forward, squeeze, 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 squeeze. You see what I mean? You're ready to do your next one. So it's actually pretty efficient. You know what I mean? Like that is how I did these little mother loads of them. Now, another thing that I want to explain, so just remember, even if you're not normally doing this, anytime you need to do something like again and again the same length, this is like, will save your fucking bacon. You know what I mean? So another thing about these links is that, going back to that whole internally stressed thing, half round wire does not bend really easily, and you know the ends won't come together as cooperatively as, let's say, a round or even an oval length. So usually what I do to make these links like this is, after I cut them all like this, and now like the ends are nice and straight, I have a whole pile of them, I'm going to take these, I'm going to anneal them. And then what I did for all of these is I just used a round nose plier, and I bent both ends up, not all the way closed because I'm going to have to weave the links through there. And then I annealed them all again and pickled them. So then when I go now to put the next links in, I'm much closer to my final result. So in other words, with a round link, I wouldn't really have to do that. You know what I mean? I would anneal it, I would thread through, I'd butt them together, and I'd move on with my life. With half round, usually you have to take those extra steps because of the internal stress, which again, we were saying before, who among us doesn't have some internal stress? And like half round is beautiful, it just usually takes a little bit of extra steps. And a lot of times I feel like people don't really realize that, so then they're like, I'm struggling and I can't get the ends together, and et cetera, okay? So the key, miter blocks, extra annealing, and you'll be happy as a clam. So for those of you who want to see the bending, it's really nothing to it. I just grab round nose pliers, and like that, ta-da. And then the same thing from the other end. And I'm not trying to bend it completely because I still have to weave the other link. Basically, I'm just giving myself 2 rounds of annealing and shape so that it's easier to get the ends together. So I do something like this, then I'll put all my round links, which I haven't made yet, so I can't show you, in there, and then close them up and solder them. I just think a lot of times people kind of treat half round just like it's going to be round, and then it's a little persnickety, and then people get all with the agita. So just a few little extra steps, but I think it really makes a really nice connector link, and it's a nice look. So if you follow my instructions, it'll make your life a lot easier. So just in case you couldn't see so well, here's a little close-up of the chain with the half round links and then the round links in between. Delish.